I think where my role is to make sure that the decision they made is as informed as possible, that it's as optimal as possible given the circumstances, given the time, given everything around. But if I was to find out at some point that that had I missed a piece of information, that had I did a different calculation, the decision could have been different, that is something that would haunt me and would, obviously haunt them. And in that sense, just making sure that decision making, that we all know we speak about strategy. Decision making is only as optimal as it is at that point in time. It's always easy
as the information you have at that point in
at that
time.
exactly, yeah. The
Exactly.
given situation at a given room at a different point in time.
Yeah.
It's always easy in hindsight to sort of say, oh, had we known this, had we done that, great. That doesn't help anyone, right? The
Right.
question is, given if you were taken back to that same point in time with the same information you had then, would you have made the same decision? Usually the answer is yes, all right? And if when the answer is no, that's a sort of a different question, which is, maybe you weren't 100% sure with the decision you made at the time or things of this sort.
Or it could be, it's also one of the things that I have found is that when you get to that point where you're questioning that strategy, because to my mind, one of the ways I define strategy is the process of taking incoming information, analyzing it, and creating a knowledge tree that allows you to make good decisions. That's sort of how I see strategy. It's this process of take this, analyze it. If you could go back and say, with same information, my knowledge tree, and this is the decision I made, you can say, wait a second, then what was it? One of the biggest things I try and help people do, for instance, is say, well, what did you learn from this? How could you make better decisions next time? Was it the channels by which you got your information? Was it who did the analysis and how the analysis was undertaken? Is it how you connected those pieces into a tree for yourself? Like, what was it that caused the poor decision? And how can you make it so that next time you'll make better decisions strategically? So that sounds like kind of what you're trying to talk about now.
Yeah, I agree, and I think one sort of practical, if I was, people listening to us who are looking for a practical suggestion to how to do that, one thing which I strongly encourage people I work with, not necessarily my bosses, but just in general, people I work with, is to have someone that they really trust, who they don't mind acting as a sounding board and confident with them. And a lot of times doesn't have to be, it's not me. And in some cases, it shouldn't even be someone in the organization. It can be someone that you completely trust outside the organization, and you say, listen, I have to make a decision. Now, obviously, maybe you can't share all the information, or you can't even share all the decisions, but someone, and if it's someone who doesn't agree with you on everything, but always has your best interest in their mind, perfect. Because you want someone to play devil's advocate, and you want someone to challenge your thought process. And if you can have that person, I can tell you, for instance, at Lightrix, there's an external advisor who the management uses, and each one of the sort of members of the management at that C-level, each one of them speaks to him, if not on a weekly, then a bi-weekly basis, to have that person who's a little bit more removed from the day-to-day life of the organization, a little bit there, but knows people well enough to give them a safe space where they can really sort of say, okay, this is something I'm grappling with, this is a question I have, how would you deal with this situation? And having that someone who you can really sound off and use as that whiteboard or that echoing board is a really important part of making a good choice.
Right. And I firmly believe in the idea of making sure it's someone who understands how to give who engages radical candor. Radical candor is making sure that when you give me that feedback, you're going to give it in a way that I'm going to understand it. I'm going to be able to hear it. I'm going to be able to actually utilize what you're saying. And I'm not immediately going to have triggers of like defensiveness or whatever, but like really, how to speak to me, and how to get to the core issues and tell me where I'm messing up. What is it that I'm not seeing? What is it I'm doing wrong here that I could do better? Like those two things.
Yeah, no, I agree. Radical candor is a great way of saying it.
Thank you for joining us in the Doctor's Den. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hope to see you next time.